I was awarded the 24-25 Artist Laureate position, which was an incredible honor. They came barging into my class one day, and I was indignant at first because I had no idea what was going on. And I remember Dana Renga, who is our Dean of Arts and Humanities, said, "I think you're going to be happy with this interruption." OSU Artist Laureate program is based on this notion that the university wants to support an artist, faculty member, to take the work they do around the state of Ohio.
The idea really is to take faculty members in the arts here on campus and get them to communities around the state who are maybe less well served by the arts, sort of under-resourced in that area.
So my activities with the Artist Laureate program focus in two areas. One is the Shakespeare and Autism Project, and that has taken up the first half of the academic calendar year. And the second half is the work I do in the veterans communities, centered around my solo show, Scrap Heap, which is about a Special Forces veteran and how he navigates the transition from service to civilian.
Kevin in particular has some very focused communities he's working with, so the autism community or military veterans. In some sense, those communities, and particularly I think this is the case with the military veterans, he's gathering a community around the performance and their shared experience of that performance. And I think that's what art in its best, most richest form does, gathers a community about it and makes the community stronger for it.
What we want to model is really vivid moments, because it's moments of expression that a lot of kids find frustrating.
So the Shakespeare and Autism Project at OSU is a service learning course. And they spend the first 4 weeks learning the Hunter Heartbeat method, which is an intervention using Shakespeare drama games to engage autistic children. Oy, 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 oy. Ay, 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 ay. The games are simple in their construction, but that makes them flexible. So anyone who comes in, any child, depending on the level of support they might need, we can adjust the game. We've gone to 5 different locations around Ohio. First day we train educators, community members, and artists. They come and help me facilitate a workshop with autistic participants. So they get to put into practice what they just learned. And the power of what you're proposing, what you're trying to do, comes into sharp relief once you have the participants and we're all an ensemble. We're sort of going on this ride together.
About 10 years ago, faculty from the Department of Theater asked to meet with us, and they wanted to talk to us about an intervention that they were doing with kids with autism. And they asked us if we would partner with them to evaluate the outcome of that intervention. And we did a couple of studies. We ran some measurements, we did some observation, and we assessed them before they participated and after, and looked to see if there were measurable changes, measurable improvements in some of these core features. Much to my surprise, we found improvement in expressive language in the kids that participated, in social skills overall, things like their ability to recognize the expression of emotion through facial expression. Yeah! As well as interpersonal skills and friendship skills, which are really some of the basic building blocks to social engagement and social interaction, which are some of the core limitations in autistic kids and adults.
Most recently, we went to Cleveland Playhouse and we trained 14 of their teaching artists. We had an amazing training session, and then we went to the Monarch School, which is in Shaker Heights, School for Developmental Disabilities. We had 11 participants with us, and so we had a big group around the circle. And we had a couple of participants who really wanted to start outside the circle. They weren't quite sure what was going on. And this one young woman, I think she was about 14 years old, she started outside the circle, and she was completely zipped up. It was cold. She had everything on. We couldn't really see her face, and she said, "I don't want to be here. I want this to be over as quickly as possible." That's not uncommon. It's not the first time I've heard that at the beginning. So we kept offering every exercise, and I kept checking in with her, and then we finally got to this exercise where we change our face to a happy face, and then we throw the happy face. And I threw the happy face all the way outside the circle to her, and I just saw her teeth in the smile, and I was like, oh, maybe we're onto something here. And pretty soon, she unzipped, took off the winter clothing, came into the circle, started playing the game, and then became a leader in the circle with one of her fellow students who happened to be nonverbal. And she essentially shepherded her fellow student through the workshop. So she went from skeptic to zealot in record time.
These games target specific deficits. So like eye contact or distance, volume in language, back and forth, or reciprocity. And so through these games, these kids are learning these skills and these abilities in a very playful and very unintimidating setting. When we first met with the people in theater, they would talk a lot about anecdotal observations and anecdotal evidence that the Shakespeare and Autism intervention was working, which is helpful. But I think what they understood is that getting a systematic and independent evaluation of the outcomes was really important. And I have a lot of respect for Kevin and my colleagues in the Department of Theater to doing that and to reaching out and partnering with us to do that research piece.
Here you go. Pull it out. Where's the shadow? Oh, it's in his shirt. Good job, Tom.
For me, it reinforced the richness of blending science or research with arts, whether it's theater, whether it's painting or music. Many of these different media can really lend themselves well with improving wellness, whether it's psychological wellness, medical health, or in our case, kids who have autism.
So when you see a transformation like the one we saw at the Monarch School, it's mostly humbling, first of all, because you're walking into someone's community and they don't know who you are, and you're asking them to trust you. And it's really an exercise in empathy and being willing to meet everyone where they are, not just the autistic participants, but your fellow teaching artists, because everyone's coming in with their own frames of reference. And so what it feels like to me when I have these experiences is not only does it confirm the power of the arts and the power of bearing witness and communalizing and inclusion and storytelling, it really gives me the fuel to continue the work and to feel incredibly fortunate to have been brought into this work and to be able to have the opportunity to continue to facilitate it, to grow.
He has this creative mind where he's always on. He's always thinking of how we can adapt this, how we can expand it, how we can take it further, and always in the spirit of a true professor, training other students, theater students, other people who will then really multiply it.
I am alone in my thoughts, no longer the person I once was. I have nightmares, flashbacks. I am someone's cliche.
The second part of the Artist Laureate program is the work I do with the veterans community, and it's all based on this solo show that I created. It's called Scrap Heap, which is about a friend of mine who is a Special Forces veteran, and it's about his story transitioning from service to civilian. And it also interrogates what our responsibility is as a community when a service member comes back from being deployed and doing their job.
Playwrights and authors have been dealing with the issues of veterans in combat since the Greeks. And I think it's only in the post-Vietnam era that we brought it to the stage with the specific intent of addressing these issues for veterans rather than just having it be a good performance. The Scrap Heap is a very powerful play.
Mud from the ground he walked before he became one who killed. They believe he suffers a soul death until he is cleansed. And his people welcome him back.
It's a way to address very complex psychological issues that we know now are present in every single war that we've ever fought.
You ever been tortured? You ever been shot at? I mean, besides, Call of Duty? Have you ever successfully detected an IED? Have you ever failed to detect an IED?
When we go to a community, we give them the option of the filmed version, a screening of the filmed version of Scrap Heap, or a sort of stripped down live version of the show.
Well, there's really three audiences that Scrap Heap can address, maybe more, but the three I'm aware of are veterans themselves who could attend. The second audience would be family members who may not understand what their veteran is going through, and that this play can bring home to them why their veteran is feeling the way he or she is feeling. And then third audience would be just the civilian population of the United States, who can gain more context beyond the typical Hollywood portrayal of PTSD crazed veterans as shooting up people in parking lots or what so forth.
The real heartbeat, the real gold in these events is the community conversation that happens afterwards. And the community conversation after each screening or performance is led by veterans from that particular community. I'm part of the talkback, but only to answer questions about the show.
I think the panel brings home to the theater goers the larger context, the fact that most veterans don't suffer from PTSD, or they have short-term combat operational stress syndrome. I had it. You have nightmares. They go away over time, and that's the end of it. They also find out that most veterans are very proud of their service and what they did in uniform. And so we go well beyond just the typical view of veterans as all having PTSD and being crazy due to their experiences, to bring home to them that no, we're normal people with very exceptional circumstances and experiences, and that although some veterans do suffer from PTSD, not all do. And then we discuss those that did suffer, who we've known, and bring more context to the sorts of things that they're going through and how to help them. And so I think that's valuable for everyone in the audience.
In short order, the arts sort of primes the soil for this exchange. We're all in this artistic space. We all know it's a storytelling space. And we all share this one story, and that is the gateway to this exchange. And that exchange has time and again been startling in how people are willing to share.
The best way for veterans to discuss their PTSD is by discussing with other veterans. And this is the other thing we bring home in the post-theater panel for veterans in the audience. If they haven't reached out to their fellow veterans through the American Legion or VFW or the VA or whatever, they should do so, because that's the best way to examine the feelings you're having, is to discuss it with people who've been there.
People in general who are engaged in the arts experience lots of benefits for their active making. But even people who are more passive audience members for arts performances, say, report a higher sense of well-being, a higher sense of satisfaction with their lives. It's not a panacea, to be sure, but I think the arts really do bring a lot of long-term benefits, and we want to share that to folks around the state.
Ohio State University, it's obviously a huge institution, right, with all kinds of things going on, all kinds of interests and commitments, and it can feel overwhelming sometimes. But when you have something like the Artist Laureate program that racks the focus to an individual artist who is doing specific work in communities, it then puts it under a microscope. It puts the power of the arts under a microscope in a really, really productive and effective way.
Kevin every year asks me to come and do this Autism 101 lecture for his students, who are then going to deliver the Shakespeare and Autism sessions throughout the semester, and he could do that as well as me. He is so knowledgeable and has developed such a strong affinity to interact with the kids.
Oh my gosh! Another person! Yeah? So it's new each time, as opposed to quick. Because if it's quick, then the moments get sort of muddied.
He is obviously a very talented artist, actor. But what I've come to realize is that he is so well-rounded. I mean, he understands and knows autism as well as I and many of my colleagues do. He has been very engaged and I'd say invested not only in his profession in terms of the theater aspects, but in understanding autism and relating with these kids.
He is a great artist, a great actor. He has produced some wonderful literature, and his academic credentials are well deserved. There are actually 2,280 military veterans or military connected students at Ohio State, about 3.4% of the total student population, which is greater than the percentage of military personnel and veterans in American society as a whole. His work directly addresses what some of them go through. And therefore, I think it's appropriate that we honor that sort of intellectual discourse.
To stand behind the military that you sent, and you sent, and you sent.
The Artist Laureate program has so many people involved in it. My students who volunteer their time to come along and continue the work in the Shakespeare and Autism Project, all the community partners, all the administrators at OSU. But the people who really make it go are my wife Lisa and my kids, Aaron and Cav. Aaron and Cav have been actively involved in Shakespeare and Autism over the years, and Lisa obviously takes on a greater responsibility, a greater load, so I can go and do the things that I do around the state. So it's humbling to see them believe in the work that I do as much as I do.
A fish.
A man.
A man.
So often we can forget that we are a storytelling species. That's who we are. We are hardwired to tell stories, to listen to stories. It's how we make sense of what happens in our lives. And when we instantly commit to communalizing an experience, to bearing witness to someone else's story, to creating a space where you can bring yourself and your story, and I can bring myself and my story, and we can meet each other, not through our differences, but through our shared need for storytelling, then we're really onto something. And that's been proven over and over again, both in the Shakespeare and Autism Project and with Scrap Heap and the work in the veterans community. If you take away the ability to tell stories or to hear stories or to share stories, especially in person, which is sort of the heartbeat of theater, then I think we start to separate. We start to lose our shared connection. We start to lose our shared humanity. If we can't protect the storytelling, the opportunities for storytelling, the cultivation of storytelling, then I think we diminish ourselves as a society, as a culture.